Hey everybody, welcome to Cousin Jack Carves. Thanks for all the support and encouragement, comments. I love it. Today we're going to go ahead and film part 3 of our Gnome tutorial, and I think you're going to like it. We're going to put in some arms and legs, get these shoes kind of added, or boots. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to start to see it taking shape, which is always kind of exciting. So why don't we get started? So the first thing we'll do to get started here in part 3 is sort of put in some lines, some reference points so that we don't get lost along the way, and it will help us with symmetry. So what we'll do first is redraw center lines on all 4 sides. We have reference lines from earlier on the top and the bottom that we can utilize. So what I've done here, you can see on the front, I've got to bring that mark up and this one down. And then just kind of hand draw this. It's not something you'll want to do with a ruler because we don't have a flat surface to draw that on. I've also done that on the back, again using the reference lines from the X we made earlier when we first started to redraw this line on the center. On the sides, we know that we brought the hat back to the other center line about right here, right? And then we know on the bottom that center line was roughly here, and so it's just a matter of sort of hand drawing those center lines back in to make sure we have some idea of where we are in the frame of reference to the center. Now if you have to pause the video for a minute to do your drawing of your lines, that's fine. Just go ahead and pause it and then come right back and we'll proceed. Right now just putting on this last line on his right side, and yeah, it's not straight, but it's going to be pretty close, and it's a frame of reference for us. One of the things that I decided to do is to shorten up this coat. I want the legs to show more, and that's actually what I did with my original carving. Now the original drawing and the pattern that's in the book, the coat was longer, but I really like having more room for his legs and the pants. So you can see here on this first carving, when I did that, I shortened that coat up, but in doing that, I left the heart hanging down beyond the coat. So what that creates is some negative space, and it's not an easy thing to do, folks. All right? See that gap between that heart and the pants? If you're a beginner carver, you're going to want to avoid that. If you're intermediate or advanced, you've probably done this kind of thing before. So for a beginner carver, what I'm going to recommend is that you keep the heart in front of that coat. So as we shorten up the coat, which you can see I've kind of drawn a line about 1/8 of an inch higher, I redrew where that bottom of the heart will be. I want the heart with the coat behind it rather than keeping the heart down here and then having that negative space. As a beginner, you'll thank yourself for doing that, okay? So once you have that center line drawn in, you can kind of draw your heart. We already have a mark for the top of the heart. As I mentioned, the bottom of the heart's going to come up about 1/8 of an inch. And then from each side for that heart, let's see, we have, about 3/4 of an inch either side to get to the widest part of that heart. So it's about a 3/4 inch gap here and 3/4 inch over to that widest part, just to give you a frame of reference, right? And you pencil in that heart. So next we're going to start marking off the arms. From the bottom of our piece, we come up 1.5 inches and make a little mark. That will be the elbow. That's going to be the bottom of the elbow. And we'll make that mark on both sides, right? Here on this side, 1.5 inches up, that'll be where the bottom of the elbow will be. In addition to that, also 1.5 inches from the bottom of our piece up will be the top of his mitten. So just a mark right there, the top of the mitten, and that's going to be on both sides, of course. Again, 1.5 inches from the bottom of the piece. And once we've done that, and again, if you have to pause, feel free, we're going to mark in the feet next. So at the bottom of our piece, we still have this corner that's mostly intact. We took off the sharpness of it early on in step 1. But from that corner, you're going to come in a full 1/2 inch and make a mark. That's going to be sort of that V shape in between the 2 shoes or boots. And then when you're drawing these shoes or boots, they're about a 1/2 inch wide at the front here. And at the back, they're just a little narrower. They're about 3/8 wide. And so they're angled out a little bit here. Both feet kind of just angled out very gently, like that. So this is going to help us, of course, to know where we're going to have our feet. So now that we've got all those pencil marks in place, let's put on our gloves. Hopefully you're wearing gloves. I encourage you to do that. And we'll get ourselves started. And just like last time, in part 2, I'm going to be using a Helvey 1.5 inch medium detail knife. I have stropped it, and it's ready to go. So the first thing we'll do is kind of cut in this line that we drew to shorten up that coat. That'll be a stop cut. I'm going to go ahead and put the tip of that knife in, and I'm pretty much straight in here. I'm not really angled here, and I'm just going to drag that along, follow the line. If your coat is not, let's say straight, right? If the edge of it has curves and what have you, that's fine. You know, I think most of the coats that I have that I've ever worn, when I'm wearing them, they don't hang necessarily straight. If you get to a corner, rock that blade, okay? Just like that. And then continue. So yeah, if it's not straight, folks, that means it's realistic. Okay. All right, we've got our stop cut. And now what we're going to do next is sort of carve up to it. Just taking off material. So I want to make sure and give a shout out to my wife, Sunny, because she has all the hard work. You know, I've been getting a lot of comments from folks, a lot of kudos and thank yous for these tutorial videos. And, you know, I appreciate that. I appreciate every one of those comments and the support. Thank you very much. But I have to tell you, I have the easy part, right? Because Sunny does all the shooting. And when we're done shooting, she edits the video. She makes corrections to my mistakes. She adds some of the graphics. And she uploads the video to YouTube. And what do? Well, I get to carve. So she's the one who's carrying the heavy end of the log, folks. She really is. And I've got the light end. So shout out to her for doing all the stuff that keeps me from having to do it. And, you know, it's for your enjoyment and hopefully to help you learn. That's the primary reason we're doing these tutorials, is to share what we have kind of learned over the years. And like I've said before, I continue learning. So one of the comments that I got on one of the YouTube pages was a comment about the finishing and the painting, antiquing of the piece. You know, I was not planning to do a separate video once we got done carving, but I have promised that I will do that, and so I will. I'll make sure and kind of have a video to cover that with you. Just want you to know, with that video, it will take considerably longer to make it because each step of the finishing and painting involves days in between to let the paint cure and then to let the finish cure. So we've gone around here, and that didn't take long, right? We've got our coat up a little bit higher now. We've got our stop cut in place. So now, next thing we're going to do is come around here to the back. And we're going to cut a V cut. It's going to get us down here to the back of the legs. Now on this carving, in order to make it easier, we have the pants covering up those boots. And in the back, you don't even see the heel of the boots at all, just pants. So we're going to cut that V cut in here. And so let's start with just taking our knife, put the tip right in, just come right down along our line, and then rock the blade at the bottom, just like that. Okay? Now with our V cut, we're going to take a slice this way, turn upside down, slice this way, and it's going to shape a V. So it's pretty simple, not a difficult cut to make. Got to get that blade in there, right? Bring it down, get to the bottom, and just give it a little rock. And it might not come out right away. We'll get there. Turn it upside down, cut from the other side, and there we are. Clean that up a little bit right here. All right, so let's shape that out a little bit. What you want to do is be careful with these V cuts. This is one of those crevices where you can start digging with your knife tip, and the next thing you know, you've got a bunch of fuzzies. So you just want to be very purposeful with the cuts that you make, because it will want to splinter on you. That's going to happen frequently with these kinds of cuts. Just shaping these legs on the back a little bit. And we have our reference mark here on the bottom to let us know just about how far we want to go. Yeah. So let's turn that around now. Come back to the front side. I'm going to take off this little corner chunk here. Keep that thumb down low out of the way. And just like we did on the back, the tip of the knife goes in. We just draw that down and then rock it. And another V cut. Tip of the knife in. Now I'm angled here, right? I'm angled so that the back of my blade is pointing that way because I want that knife to get in there and slice that V. Okay? So there we go. We got the blade in there. Gonna draw it down. Get to the bottom. Just kind of rock it a little bit. Switch it upside down and come the other way. Again, angle that cut and bring it up. At the top, we'll just do this and pop that thing right out. Okay, we've got some more shaping to do because on the front here, we have a considerable amount of space to shape that V. Let's just start by rounding off where we are here. Eventually, we're going to have the tip of our boots. Now we're going to get back in here, make sure we have more space. Again, for the shoes, the legs. All right. Coming down here to the bottom, making a cut. And just like on the back, you'll find that these areas where you have your V-cut, you're slicing in to where those shoes will be, will have a tendency to want to splinter on you. So take your time with those cuts. It's easier to kind of go slow and take your time than it is to try and correct all the fuzzies that can occur if you start digging and just kind of find that there's no end to where you're going with some of the splintering. Okay, so we're deep enough here. Still going to continue rounding here and getting these pants down to where the front of those boots would be as well. So the front of the boots be about right there. So let's take our pencil then and make some lines to give us a reference on where the pants are going to be relative to the boots. So we know in the front, our boots are going to come up to about here, okay? And it's going to taper back like this to a point where the pants are going to be covering those boots. So I've got that going just past the center line to about right here. That gives me a frame of reference on the other side. About right here. I know that's the point where those pants completely cover the rest of the boot. Just like that. So now we have both sides pretty much equal. So while we're at that, let's go ahead and make that cut again to give us an idea where that spot is that the pants will be down over the boots. This is a stop cut, coming in here just like this, bringing it around. Be careful when you get to the edge. Just rock, okay? Go over to the other side, same thing. Getting that stop cut going and then just carrying that forward, following the line. When you get down here, you just stop. So that gives us an idea then of where the pants will be referenced to our boots. Now we do know that our pants are going to be further back here in the front. So if we look at our example, you can see the boots are out here and the pants are probably a good 1/4 inch further in as far as layers. So we have some room to cut here on the front. So why don't we go ahead and do that? Bringing the knife up. Now see, if you are one of the folks who decided to have the heart hanging down beyond the coat, this part here would be considerably more difficult. When I did it originally, I really wasn't even thinking about it. I just kind of liked the way it looked, so I made it that way. But I know when I drew this up and what I showed you in the pattern, I had the heart staying up higher so that it was directly in front of the coat. Okay, we're going to continue shaping, taking off some of this material here in the front. Again, the idea is shaping everything out before we get into too much detail. But we do anticipate giving this little gnome some arms and legs today. Just kind of scooping that cut there, putting it in and then turning the knife, bringing it up, and popping that out. So yeah, we're getting there. Coming back here to that stop cut, just kind of bringing the pressure down right on that stop cut. I'm going to cut to it like this. Just kind of reestablishing that stop cut a little bit. Bring the knife down, just like that. Go over to the other side. Straight down on that stop cut, rocking that blade a little bit, carving to it. And we'll do that again over here. Okay, so since we took off some material here, we want to kind of get back in here with our V-cut. We want to show that separation between the two legs. There we go. Doesn't need to be a lot, folks. Really doesn't. Just want to have that mark, right? That kind of shows this is where we actually have legs. It's not just one big chunk of pants material, that there are actually two individual legs. Okay, so let's continue with shaping, going back onto the back of this guy now, just kind of rounding off these legs to make sure we have something that resembles roundness instead of something square. And removing this material also helps us to identify where the edge of that coat is, right? Gives us some separation. Now be careful when you're doing this on the back. Remember, you want the pants hanging down over the back of those boots, so don't take too much off. And then when you're doing this, you also want to kind of hold it so that you're looking across here, so you can see if your pant legs are even. You can also look down at it from the top or the bottom, that would be. And you can see how much room you have to go yet. So let's go ahead and very carefully bring out some of that material. I often tell people to make sure that you enjoy the ride. What I mean by that is it's not always about the end product, it's about enjoying the carving parts. Enjoying that feeling of the sharp blade going through the wood, the sound of it. Just all of that enjoyable piece. So what I want to do next is sort of draw in where we're going to have our arms. We put that center line back in on either side of our carving earlier. And we already know where the top of the shoulders is. We have that marked from earlier. What I want to do is take a line from about 1/8 of an inch in front of my center line and carry that back, about 1/4 inch to the other side. And that's going to be where my shoulder will be. Just like that. So about 1/3 of it in front, 2/3 of it behind that center line. I know that the top of the mitten is here and that the elbow is here. So when I'm drawing this, I'm going to have my bend in the top of the elbow here and the bottom of the elbow down here. With the mittens, about the width of the nose is where the mitten ends. So I'm going to come down here like this because I've got that mitten angled downward about like this. And with the shirt, I'm going to have that shirt just hanging down here. That and bring it up a little bit here. Put in a little V right there where the shirt would naturally have a fold. And now we've got an arm on one side. Let's go ahead and draw in the left arm. We're going to do the same thing. We have that center line that we redrew. I want to come in front of it about 1/8 of an inch, about right here. And then about 1/4 inch behind. And I'm going to draw that a little bit bigger than what I'm probably going to end up with. You always want to have extra space to work with, right? I know that the top of my mitten is about here. And I've got this elbow bending right there, so this one probably right around here is where I'm going to have that. I'm going to draw in this other mitten. And the shirt is going to hang down a little bit here. Put in that V at the elbow. We've got a frame of reference now for these arms. Let's go ahead and put in some stop cuts so we can begin shaping those. first thing that I'll do is kind of look at it from the back and see if the elbows are equal. They look all right. Yep, they look pretty good. So what I want to do is put my knife right here at the back of that shoulder, kind of come down to that elbow, just like that. And I'm going to put my blade back in there and carve at it in the other direction, like so. All right. For the shirt, I'm going to continue now. Get the tip of the blade in there, just kind of follow along that drawing to there. And then bring that up just a little bit, because I know that the mitten is going to be coming out right around here. Now, one thing that happens, that sort of creates an opportunity right here for a triangle. See that? If we put our blade in, get the tip of that in there, and then the tip again on this side of the triangle, and then we just go ahead and slice into it. There we go. And we'll just go ahead and finish that up while we're here. Carve up to that little stop cut that we just made. Just sort of outlining where the arm is going to be. And let's go ahead and rock our knife at the top of the shoulder again. So the next cut we'll make is actually this cut, the top of the elbow where the bend is. We're going to make another triangle cut right there. Okay? And to do that, I'm just going to take the tip of my knife, bring it in here just a little bit. Going to turn that around back to that point and bring it right back out like that. Then we'll come into that cut we just made like this and pop it out. So now we've got that bend in the elbow. Come back to the top of the arm, carry that down like this, have that stop cut, and we'll put in this part of the shirt. Again, we know we have a mitten right there. I'm going to make a very shallow stop cut where the shirt comes up like this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and carve up to my stop cut right over here. There we go. And then over here we have another opportunity for a triangle. You can see it where this heart right here meets the shirt right there. So I just made a slice this way and this way. Now we get our blade in there and undercut that and pop it out. So we have that same opportunity on this side, of course, with a triangle here. And this is really going to help us create some shadows, some depth, which is what we're trying to achieve, right? We're right here by that elbow. Let's go ahead and make our cuts for the bend in the elbow. One like that, and one like this. And again, we just kind of slice into that. Take it out. Make the rest of our stop cut going up here to the shoulder. And then removing that. We'll come back along the back edge of that arm. Again, make a stop cut. Just like that. And then get the blade up under there and remove that material. And then just continue around the rest of that shirt that we have. Again, another triangle right here where the shirt and the mitten meet. Just going to pop that out. And then carve right up to our stop cut that we made. So we're starting to see some shape here with our little gnome. And one of the things we know is that the layers that we build are really important. We know that the mittens will be on top of the heart. The heart is on top of the beard and on top of the coat. So we know that the mittens, as far as a layer is concerned, are the next level in the front of this thing. So while we've got our legs kind of taking shape and our arms taking shape, I want to move up to the hat and just work on some of that. So earlier we got to this point where we brought the hat back, and we know in the finished carving we have it sort of flopping over to one side. So with that, we want to leave more material on the left side than we do on the right. Now, of course, this is your carving. You can make it look any way you want, right? But with the original carving we're working from, that mark actually happens right about center and then carries down along the front about like this, and then comes around a little bit just like that. So what we're going to do to make sure we leave more material over here, we're going to carve in this direction. And I'll show you what I mean. We're going to take the knife, we're going to come at that end grain from this angle, right? So I'm over here on his left side, and I'm bringing my blade across this way, like that. If you have any trouble cutting through end grain, it may be time to drop your knife. Another way you can tell, if you start to see a bunch of white lines kind of running through the cuts that you're making, the slices that you're making, that's usually a sign as well that you need to spend some time sharpening. All right, so we've got that pulled over. Now I'm going to work on that sharp corner. We don't want that. Start shaping that some. Okay. Now I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create that floppy part, okay? I'm going to put the point of my knife in and kind of follow my pencil line down to about here. Kind of curve it around, just like that. Next, I'm going to carve right into that, just like that. Right? Just creating that shadow. That's what we're doing. Then I'm going to turn it upside down, Come right back along where I just made that stop cut. All right, that's looking good. Little space right there. Now I'll come back on the other side here towards the back. Do the same thing. All right, I've got my floppy part of the hat basically coming up here about right like this. Like that. You have to forgive my pencil drawings when I'm wearing gloves, folks. It's not pretty, I know. But you know what? I'm going to make those pencil lines go away. So I'm just going to put my stop cut in here. Carry that up. Make the turn right to about there. And then I'll just turn that around. Again, I'm going to put the tip of that knife in. Start creating that shadow there. And then follow along where that stop cut is with the tip of my blade. Just like peeling a potato. There you go. Now we've got that floppy part kind of hanging down there. To make it kind of fun, what you can do is some scoop cuts. Now to do that, you just take your blade and you scoop it, okay? Give it a twist. It gives it some real action. Make one up there, come down here, do it again. And you can kind of see it starts to make some contours, which of course helps to add interest, right? Have fun with it, right? That's what it's all about. All right, so I think we've made some pretty good progress. We have some legs, arms. We've got the hat with the floppy part on it. And probably in our next video, we should be wrapping this guy up. That means we'll be shaping some more, doing a lot of work here on the back, putting the belt in, and then getting to the details. And that'll be a lot of fun too. Thanks for joining me, folks. Make sure you hit that like button, okay? And I'll see you next time.